So hello everyone. I guess we're doing another update video. I like to do things purposely unprofessionally, so we're gonna start out with a webcam. So Ouranosaurus now got the TLC it deserved. Um, so yeah, let me tell you the story of the Ouranosaurus and what its new TLC is and why it's probably the best creature ever created and is the most epicest ever. And also to anyone who is from the modding community watching, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 18 now. I know, it's surprising. As you can see, I look different. Our story begins with the Saurian's Evolved 2 mod. Everything is going good with it, except really not, because the mod was overpopulated with carnivores. And as we know, that is not good, because even though the carnivores could sustain its population, because at the time, there was chemical implanted water that was put into the water to poison all the dinosaurs to turn them gay, which didn't let them breed anymore. So it was okay, but eventually they got breeding back. So after that, the Ouranosaurus and other herbivores were added to the mod. These herbivores were just cannon fodder. They were only added just to be large and just there to fill up the roster because people complained about the lack of herbivores. They were one of the creatures I just made for the fun of it. And I never thought of the balance, and I kind of thought, like, oh, these guys are like the spikers of Halo 3, where they really serve no purpose but to be cool. They just look cool and just walk around, and maybe they'll defend themselves. One of the creatures was Ouranosaurus, one of my favorite hadrosaur. It lived with Spinosaurus, which was pretty cool, but it didn't really do much. It was just a Dimetrodon with a cool Iguanodon's model, which sucked and had shitty texturing. In general, it just didn't do anything but give, like, heat. And even then, its turning radius was shit, and it was useless. And it was the worst hadrosaur in the mod, compared to the other ones, which actually did have different uses, but they kind of just overlapped with other creatures and didn't have balance. So eventually I removed it from the mod because I did a poll and I asked, because we were now making a new mod called Saurian's Evolved 3, which we eventually named it to Saurian's Evolved Primordial because Sid didn't like the idea, and I get his stance on it because it was like, this will kind of override Saurian's Evolved 2 and make people think it's not being worked on, and I'm like, oh crap, you're right. So eventually I changed it. And then one of these days, I wanted to bring in Ouranosaurus because it was my favorite hadrosaur and probably the best for a new ability. I did a poll: Dinotherium, Ourano, or Suchomimus. I was hoping for Suchomimus, which was probably my favorite mount in Saurian's Evolved 2. Everyone voted for Ourano and Dinotherium. So eventually that was the next creature. So I got C-Rig to make the concept art worth $20, and the original concept was that it would be able to change its color depending on where it was, and it also would bask and stuff, and the saddle would be on top of its sail. Other than that, most of its abilities weren't defined until it got into game. And then I got the model done by Bob Slavo, I remember his name. I got that model done for a decent price, and with some skins, we eventually became in-game. Except this was actually 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I don't remember, probably 2 years. And what happened well, let's just say I wasn't good at weight painting things, so it didn't really look good. And it was kind of just left like that for a while, because I didn't think there was anything I could do. I didn't really have someone like the epic Chad himself, Ghidorah, to help me, so he was just left there to rot with the other creatures. The mod wasn't updated for a while, and that's because RexCore wasn't in the community anymore, so he couldn't update it. And eventually I was more focused on commissions, and it was just kind of left there to fall in the water. Now, let's fast forward to today. I re-released Primordial, Series Evolved Primordial, the expansion. Unfortunately, most of the creatures weren't updated, and I just wanted to get the mod out since I wasn't able to mod for most of the year because my laptop wouldn't run the dev kit, and I couldn't do any of my commissions, I couldn't do any of my personal mods, and it made me upset. And I really wanted to do Primordial the most because the mod itself was focused on balance, kind of like Halo Infinite Sandbox, compared to Saurian Evolved 2, which can be more comparable to Halo Free Sandbox, where it was more focused on just adding everything at once and making one thing useful. Mapusaurus. Most of the time for Saurian Evolved, Saurian Evolved 2, I only cared about making the creatures Ghidorah wanted to be cool, or making things I wanted to be cool. Most of the other stuff I just kind of added for the fun of it, and it was made for fun. This mod was made for balance in mind. So when coming back to Ourano, there were some problems with it, even if it was already useful. It already had the ability to be a smithy saddle and can incubate eggs really well because of its hyperthermia and hypothermia insulation. However, this was not really enough because it was pretty weak. It's a large-ass hadrosaur. Those aren't cannon fodder like Jurassic World would like you to believe. They could actually frickin' wreck a carnivore, and they should be able to do that. And plus, even if they were in wild, they wouldn't be able to actually attack you properly because of their turning radius. So, changes had to be made. What changes would I have to make? Well, I made its turning radius better. I managed to give it a stun attack in wild, so when they're in wild, they'll actually use their stun. And its roar actually will knock back things more. And its stun and bite were more buffed to be the stamina doesn't drain as much, and it does more damage. Being a hadrosaur, that is. And it also got a new skeleton, thanks to Ghidorah, because he's a Chad. And I'm very thankful for him doing that for me, because I was really busy this week with stuff. I'm just glad that now I have an excuse to go and update the mod. After that, I kind of felt like everything was pretty good. It was already good, Ourano. It didn't drain any stamina. It was pretty good for traveling around, and now it wasn't some giant, skittish, gentle giant. Though they still will remain friendly creatures that don't mind heating up other creatures in need. So, the African variant. The African Ouranosaurus was created to more or less fill the frickin' furred skin option role, mainly being the red one. They would live in snowy and desert environments. The main problem about them was they weren't really that different. So this update, I decided to make them different. They can now breathe fire and breathe ice. How do they do this? Well, allow me to draw my diagram. As you can see here, the bladder, it will use its sail to freeze up the bladder and to regurgitate it out its mouth, freezing with freeze breath. So remember, when you get freezed up, you're getting frozen with frozen piss. Now, how does it make the fire? Well, it regurgitates its stomach acid and burns it up like it's a flamethrower. Pretty cool. So, after that, I decided that was pretty cool. Even though it wasn't realistic and it was based off of a epic Christian, I felt like it made it more impactful, and it would use these in the wild. I also made it so they change different colors, depending on what attack you use, which is pretty cool. Now, the armor. The original saddle was kind of weird looking. I put a smithy on its sail, and then I put a barrel, that was it. And the rider wouldn't even properly go in. So to improve it, and to make it more like the concept art, I decided to make it a passenger saddle and to make the smithy inside a chest, which really improved the look of it and made it look like it was a creature that was meant to be going around traveling, carrying around supplies around the island. And along with this, it could also swim better now, because it doesn't even have oxygen. The African variant can't do this because they're more suited to land environments. Now, if you weren't happy with that and you wanted more protection to prevent things like this from happening,
elected world's biggest hat wearer at that age, you better believe things would get real unpainful real quick. Candling, hookers, setting fires, toasting to the devil. And when you know it, these are all things John the 12th did. It's said that he took the sacred palace and literally made it into a whorehouse. Matter of fact, while researching the guy, I stumbled across this list of sexually active corpses. This is a real Wikipedia article. Take a hike, toilet paper orientation. Daddy's got a new favorite. John is featured prominently on this list, of course. He had a thing for widows for some reason. Personally, I'm not big on weepy old hags. I'm more of a carefree young hag.
Why? Why, Ghidorah? Oh my, now I don't have it. Well, you could also now equip armor to it, which also will increase damage by a little bit and have 80% armor, which makes you more invulnerable. And also, you can't get any debuffs from it. You can still get stunned though. And essentially, the saddle allows for extra protection. It's like a condom, except it can't break. So, after that, I realized that I made it much more fun and better to use. And this creature was more viable as a defense build, too. This was all great. And now it was pretty much a cool creature. And now I can go with my friends on this epic party bus. Now, there's also a new thing I added. Skins. Yeah, that's right. Unlike a certain game, you don't have to pay $5 for the color blue. You can actually craft it with 5 pieces of wood. And it pretty much lets you have the African variants on your Ourano, your normal one, so it can be thermalized too. And eventually I'll add these to other creatures, and some of them will have model variations, and if they look good enough, I'll make them into subspecies. And honestly, with this new Ourano, you can also now have an epic convoy that you can carry around all your metal in. So you can be encouraged to use land travel more, because I don't like using flyers because it's not fun. You can tell more stories with land travel, or get ripped apart by random wyverns, Ghidorah wyverns. So, pretty much this is the update. I'm sorry if my voice sounded shaky during this. It's because I am out of my breath trying to say everything so fast. And also because I really spent the last 2 days working on this. So anyways, I hope you're happy. We'll be continuing to focus on updating the other creatures of the mod first before we add more new ones, unless the new ones actually have animations already or weight painted skeletons. So yeah. I hope you're happy. Now that Ouranosaurus and Spinosaurus have the best skeletons, we can start making variants for them and costumes. Anyways, thanks for following the development of this mod, and I'm very excited to keep working on it. I have other things to do as well, so yeah. I just don't want to repeat the same mistakes of having too many creatures and then it becomes too big of a problem to fix, where we focus more on adding stuff instead of fixing the stuff currently. Unfortunately, I was following in wildcard steps of just adding more stuff instead of fixing the old stuff. So I wanted to not make that mistake again and play proper tribute to one of my favorite hadrosaurs. So thank you for listening to this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you. Goodbye. Next time I'll put more memes in so you Gen Zs can actually Gen Zs wouldn't watch this fully. They only can watch 30-second videos before they click off. Oh crap.
You got to have the faith in yourself if you only speak for your friends.
When you feel tired, look at yourself.
Inside your heart you will find your special place to unwind.
When you feel right, look at yourself.